And good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. I'm Jay Lenora Bressler. Welcome to the June 2nd, 2020 edition of the Bible Delight in the Details. We're coming to you from our new home studio with a brand new, very high powered camera and mic and lighting. And we hope that this is crystal clear for you right now. Today, we're looking at Galatians chapter 6, verse 2. And it reads as follows: Dear or bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. Now, there's a couple things here that is very interesting. This comes at the end of one of Paul's letters to the church at Galatia, and it's a beautiful thing just when you take it completely just out of context and you just lift it up. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Now, if that's all you know about that verse, you can certainly get a lot out of it and you get the gist of it. The idea being, how do you do what Christ has called you to do? What is the law of Christ? Well, the law of Christ is to love God and love one another as you do yourself, right? So, how does one actually do that? How do you love your neighbor as yourself? Well, here it says, bear one another's burdens. You know, burdens are something that none of us really want, but we're obviously called to bear our own burdens. But it really is a lot of love and care and compassion when you voluntarily go and you bear someone else's burdens, when you don't actually have to. And that is the law of Christ, is that we show our love to God and our love of God to our fellow man and through our fellow man. Now, interestingly, though, you look at the context in which this beautiful verse is falls, and it does kind of open your eyes to what kind of burdens is Paul actually got in mind. So let me read you the verse before and a couple verses after this verse 2, and you'll see what I mean. It's very interesting. Brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. For if anyone thinks he is something, when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not in his neighbor. For each will have to bear his own load. It gives a little different connotation, doesn't it? When you see it in its original context. What is the burden that we are to bear? I think it's other people's foibles. I think it's other people's temptations. I think it's other people's struggles with trying to live a godly life. And when they do mess up, we are called to restore them, but with gentleness, to bear with them. And in that way, we are fulfilling the law of Christ. You know, what is the law of Christ? Well, we've already talked about it's to love God and love one's neighbor. But it's also the Great Commission, which is to go and teach and baptize and to make disciples, which would include teaching, including gentle and appropriate discipleship. But we are to bear with one another's burdens. Now, what does it mean to bear with burdens? It means to deal with them in a way that is not resentful, that is not harsh, but it has a patience and a gentleness of approach that is, frankly, much more likely to work and to persuade. So, this is very interesting, isn't it? Bear one another's burdens, help people when they are struggling. And yes, those struggles may be tangible strugglings like monetary needs or physical needs or emotional needs, but it also may be spiritual temptations. That may be one of their burdens as well. And it's interesting that, right after that, it talks about, that those of us that are helping better watch out ourselves and not think too highly of ourselves, nor be tempted to do as someone else is doing, which we know is not right. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? When you see a verse that can be appreciated and loved just in and of itself, but when you consider it in its original context, can take on a little bit of a new connotation as well. We must bear with one another's burdens, even when those burdens are their own lack of wisdom, their own sinful nature, their own temptations, always recognizing that we ourselves have our own. I'm J. Lenora Bressler. Visit me on the next edition of The Bible, Delight in the Details. Have a great day.